Fawr iawn, yn personol i bawb. Felly,
Welcome back. So I can declare that the result is that we have a new vice chair, Mr. Tim Jones. Thank you. Congratulations, Tim. And can I take this opportunity to thank Edgar for his work during the past year? Will we have any apologies? I can't see Sarah Hatzel present. She may have sent an email to apologize. I have a few announcements to make as chair since the last meeting. On the 28th of April, I attended the Standards Committee, and at the end of May, I was down in the Wales National Parks, Brecon Beacons seminar, and it was great to see so many of you there from Eryri. Then I attended via Zoom the Forum of Chairs UK, and that was an experience in itself to meet different people from the different parks, and we interviewed the head of planning development yesterday. Also, we'd like to send our deepest condolences to Sharon Warnes, the chair of the Standards Committee. She lost her husband recently. Moving on, I'd just like to ask if the chief executive has any corporate updates. Welcome to the chair. I mentioned in the last meeting that the minister was going to come and see us into the summer, but there will be a meeting at the Royal Welsh to discuss climate change specifically. You had an email yesterday to say that the meeting had been deferred, and that's because of the member development day, that is. And if you haven't responded to that invitation, can you please respond to that? Because that event, the Last Words event in Ysgwrn, will be held. However, there's still maintenance work that's being undertaken there. We'd like to undertake that work as soon as possible. We have a meeting with the railway company. There has been delay with the work because we couldn't get the builders up to the summit. So we have work to catch up on there. A piece of work straight away for the chair. We will need to evaluate or appraise actually the members of Welsh Government. So a bit of homework for you there straight away. Okay, we'll have a chat about that later. And that's it for now. Okay, thanks, Emyr. Item 5, public question time. Has anything come to hand, and when you want? No, there hasn't. Any declaration of interest on any matter on today's agenda? Can I declare an interest in the last item in part 2 of the agenda because of my link with Gwynedd Council? Because it's from next month onwards, I don't think it's a prejudicial interest, but I'm declaring an interest anyway. Okay, we will now move on to the membership of the authority. This is for information more than anything. The officers have said that if you would give your permission for all your contact details, name, address, email address to be published on the authority's website. Are they already there? We just wanted to make sure, just in case somebody wanted theirs removed, or if you wanted to change any details or are no longer willing for them to be there on the website, please say so now. Put your hand up if you don't want your contact details. And if you could check the website and get back with to Anwen by the end of the week, please. Moving on to the minutes of the authority held on the 26th of April. Will anybody propose that these minutes are correct? Thank you. Proposed and seconded. Can we have a show of hands, please, if you agree that the minutes are correct? Thank you very much. Any matters arising from the minutes from anyone? If not, okay. Thank you. On to the action sheets, therefore. Page 11. Iwan, are you dealing with this one? Yes, I am. There will be a list for the next meeting. So now we'll move on to the. Actually, I haven't asked if anybody has any questions in relation to the action log before we move on. We'll need to accept it as is. Okay, on to appointments of members to serve on committees, panels, working groups and external representation. Emir, we'll be dealing with this jointly. And of course, the decisions are up to you as members. Number 3, committees, states there that you are all members of the Planning and Access Committee. Performance and Resources also, all members. No change to the Standards Committee either, because it's for a specific term of office. And the number 4, the panel remains the same. Number 5, working groups, that remains the same. Advisory committee, can people either confirm or propose any other members to replace themselves? Item 6 there. Authority Advisory Committee. There are 4 members of the authority. There are 3 members that are appointed by the local authority. And at the moment we have Ivor Glenn Lloyd, Elwyn Edwards, Councillor Elwyn Edwards, Councillor June Jones. Are you 3 willing to carry on? Can we run through them individually? Does anybody want to change anywhere? Or that we accept them as is? Are you 3 willing to stay on this committee? Yes. I know that Sarah isn't here. She represents Welsh Government. She hasn't joined the meeting as yet. Ysgwrn, Board, Elfed and Elwyn. Naomi representing Welsh Government on that one. Blas Board, Meryl Tracy Tim. Tracy, are you still happy with that? And then the authorities advisory committees, Caelan Tegid and Tryweryn Advisory Conference. We have 4 members there, Elwyn, Ivor, June and Brian. Are you happy to remain on that? Brian? Forum Eryri, 5 members. chair and as vice chair, Tim will be attending this one. Kim and Joe, are you happy to remain on the forum? And Brian as Welsh Government appointee. Local Access Forum, 2 members, Councillor John Pugh. And the Northern Access Forum, Tim. The Eryri Equality Forum, Ivor, are you happy to remain? Task and finish groups and steering groups, asset subgroup, 6 members, as follows. Are you all happy to remain on the asset subgroup? Euro Park Youth Manifesto Group, as follows. Tracy, are you also willing to remain on that one? Carbon Account Steering Group, as follows. Place Names Steering Group, as follows. Other bodies. Trawsfynydd Stakeholder Group, Elfed. Joint Council for Wales, Louise. National Trust Local Liaison Committee, June. Do you want to write to them officially? There hasn't been any meetings for years now. I don't think it's required any longer, but I'm happy to remain. I'll write to them and ask for confirmation. Campaign for national parks. It's been agreed that the 3 Welsh National Park authorities are represented by a member of the authority that holds the National Park Wales Secretariat. The Alliance for Welsh Designated Landscapes, Tim. Welsh Local Government Association, Dilwyn. SAC, Penllyn ar Sarnau, Louise. Snowdonia Green Key Executive Group, June. Energy Island Programme Strategic Forum, Elfed. Dyfi Biosphere Partnership, Louise. Cambrian Coast Railway Liaison Conference, 1 member. Meryl, and in reserve, Delyth. Okay. Thank you for your cooperation with that. On to the annual report of the authority. And we'll be getting a report from the chair of the Standards Committee. But of course, Mrs. Sharon Warnes is not present today to present the report to us. It is a report that is prepared jointly, and under the current circumstances, Sharon has asked if I would be willing to present the report, and I'm more than happy to do that. So in the first part, it gives you the background and gives you a bit of detail about the Standards Committee. And it notes the additional statutory duty, goes on to explain why this report is presented by the chair of the Standards Committee. And previously, it was a report by the monitoring officer. So that just gives you a bit of additional background. On to the annual report itself. We confirm that the Standards Committee has met twice during the year, and has been training, and Mrs. Sarah Hattel was appointed on mentoring. During the year, we lost our former chair, Mrs. Rachel Davies. She had to resign as chair because she had accepted the role that meant that she could no longer continue in her role any longer. And following that, back in April of this year, the committee appointed Mrs. Sharon Once for the remainder of her period as an independent member. Following that, Sharon was already vice chair, and so the chair is Mr. Martin Hughes. He was appointed as vice chair of the Standards Committee. And following the resignation of Mrs. Rachel Davis, Mr. Mark Jones was appointed as independent member of the Standards Committee for a term of 5 years. During the year, Sharon observed the meetings of the Performance and Resources Committee and Planning and Access Committee as an observer, and a formal report of her findings will be presented to the next meeting of the Standards Committee, and presenting ideas on her findings as an independent member, how things are being dealt with, and possibly if she thinks that there needs to be improvements made, those will also be discussed during the next meeting of the Standards Committee. Sharon Warnes has also taken part in an interview with Audit Wales as part of their work into governance on the National Park Authorities in Wales. And under number 15, I can confirm that a general dispensation was given to Gwynedd and Conwy councils in order to enable said members to take a full part in determining issues relating to the two councils. No matters were referred to the Public Services Ombudsman or to the Adjudication Panel for Wales, and that's really good news from the authority's perspective. And there was no case where we had to use the local solution, local authority resolution procedure either. We also considered the complaints monitoring reports, which reviewed undertook an independent review of the ethical standards framework by Richard Penn, and we need to confirm that the Standards Committee will continue to monitor progress on training during the year. So basically, that's it. We're familiar. So recommendations to discuss and agree the content of the report. Before we go to the recommendation, does anybody have any questions or comments that they'd like to make on this report? Will anybody propose that we accept the report? Can we second that? Can we have a show of hands in the usual way, please? On to item 12, which is the annual government statements for 2022-2023. Head of Administration and Customer Care will present this. Bethan, welcome. Thank you very much, and good morning. This is just to introduce the annual government statement. This is to look at the last financial year and to review the governments that we had in place and to ensure that the authority has got firm internal regulations and that we meet our plans, policies and procedures, and that this is all done in a transparent way. I won't go into great detail on this substantial report. However, I will welcome any comments or observations that you have in relation to the statements. I would like to consider approving the statement, which will then be incorporated into our financial year for 2022-2023. Thank you, Bethan. Does anybody have any comments or questions in relation to this report? I have two questions and observations. On page 38, in relation to staff appraisals, I was quite shocked really when I saw that low number there, and I hope that the number of 37% will increase dramatically, and because in my mind this is not acceptable at all. The management team have considered that, and it's one of the side effects of COVID, and the appraisal process has already begun. And I have one more as well. And in relation to page 41 on health and safety, once again, this is one of the most important elements in relation to staff. And there's quite a bit of work that needs to be undertaken on this. I would expect to see some figures here. And work needs to be undertaken on this, and this year, hopefully we'll see a stronger report. We've just had an external assessment on where we're at the moment as an organisation and the steps required. And following that, Joe Worrell was e-push accredited, and one of the recommendations is that we do have somebody with the same qualification either from the workforce or that we have an agreement in place. And we agreed on this with the management team. And we need to look at if we can have civil agreement with the local authority. So we're aware of it and we're taking the required steps. Brian? You're on mute at the moment, Brian.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a question on page 47 to do with sustainable tourism, which is mentioned there in reference to some work. If this is being picked up in the corporate work programme, that's fine. Otherwise, I think it would be helpful to have more clarity in the governance report about what work is being put in place to help refine the sustainable tourism vision and ways in which it can be measured to assess impact.
Dwi ddim yn ymwybodol os ydi o mewn yn
I'm not aware whether that's in the corporate work programme. Does anyone know? I'm just having a look now. But of course, if your wish is to have greater detail around this in this statement, of course, I can add that in. That's no problem.
I think it would be helpful if it just gave only needs to be a sentence in terms of what is happening to make sure that is cleared. Bearing in mind this is something that was picked up within Audit Wales, I think it would be helpful to see in the government report how the authority is tackling that criticism more specifically in the governance report.
Yes, thank you, Brian. Anyone else? Any comments? So, does anyone propose the recommendation that we ask the authority to approve the reports for the financial year? My hand is up to ask a question. Oh, all right. Sorry, John. Yes, page 37, members' attendance. About halfway down, it's with observing meetings and so on. Now, are the public now able to observe any committee meeting? Because I thought it was legally required now for authorities to do this. I'm not sure if I'm right there. Well, county councils have different duties to the national park. But I can confirm that a live stream is taking place from the meeting, so it is possible for people to listen live, and it is also on our website. So if you can't see the program live streamed, you can see it on the website. Oh, I see. It can catch up on the website. Yes, and also we open up to the public if they want to attend in person. There's one person here now listening to the meeting live today. Okay, thank you very much. Is that all right, John? So does anyone propose the recommendation now? A second? Yes, thank you. Please show your hands in the usual manner. Thank you. Thank you very much. So next item on the agenda is the Corporate Work Programme 22-23. Iwan? Yes, you'll see on page 51 what the situation is. And under the Wellbeing of Future Generations Wales Act, public bodies are required to publish wellbeing statements. This will be for a period of 5 years, build on that and show annually what steps we are going to take to to reach these wellbeing targets. So on page 53, you'll see the first item, then we have a number of actions following that. You'll then see on page 59 of the report, the PIs in a way. This is how we know that we've succeeded. And on page 60, we have the letter that we received from the Minister and Welsh Government explaining how the steps we're going to take is going to feed in. And then we have so this is the way in which it's been set out, and hopefully it's quite user-friendly. But if you do have any questions about the contents, I'm more than happy to address them. And this corporate work programme, once it's confirmed by ourselves, we'll report back to the Performance and Resources Committee on how we deliver during the year. And the recommendation is that members adopt the corporate work programme, and that is operational for 23-24. Thank you very much. Again, before I go to the recommendation, does anyone have any comments or questions on this document? Just to say that I'm very happy with this. It's a very good package of work. Yes, yeah. So because we're looking at 5 years, yes, the work programme is now, it can tell more of a story, and there'll be more consistency in the way we go about things. Thank you. Right, would anyone like to propose recommendation? Is it seconded? Thank you. Could you please show your hands again in the usual way? Thank you very much. Right, we're moving on now to item 14 on the agenda, members' attendance. And again, Yuan will be taking this item. Thank you very much. Once there's an election, yeah, we have the pre and post election time. So the part you need to focus on is what has happened after the election and your attendance as new members. And you will see from the 15th of June to the end of March of this year, the attendance percentage is 81%. And if you compare that to the previous years, I think it's there and thereabouts, really. It was 82% and 1 year and 88% in another year, just exceptionally good. So the way I interpreted this was that the figures showed consistency in attendance comparing to previous years. But for your information, members' attendance has also been noted member by member. So there is a further more details there for you. So I'm not going to say any more than that, other than yes, well, you will see that it is for information only. So does anyone propose just one thing on page 78? Yes, I was just looking at you and I was scratching my head and thought who Mehefin Jones was. I came to that conclusion as well. Well, I'm not sure what's happened there. I do apologise. I was called June, but oh, it's been translated, hasn't it? The name June. Ah, right. Well, I quite like the name, to be honest with you. Yes. Thank you very much. So other than that, does anyone propose we accept the recommendation with that amendment? Please show in the usual way. That's carried. Right. Item 15, Welsh language standards. Bethan, are you taking this again? Yes, there we are. Thank you very much. So I'm now presenting to you the annual report on the Welsh language standards. You'll see that it's under 3 points with the executive summary, giving you the summary at the beginning. And then there is some detail on compliance with the standards for the authority. And then staff data has been appended for the number of Welsh-speaking staff. I'm not going to go into any great detail for this report, but I'd like to draw attention to 2 specific things that happened last year. First time, there were new Welsh language promotion, and it's good to say that the strategy is now fully implemented. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the 3 members on the Task and Finish group to develop the strategy. And I'd like to thank them for their input and support in this work. And finally, it's importantly to draw attention to the change that happened in November last year, and that's to your decision as an authority to refer to Arwyddfa and Eryri through the Welsh language only, a very positive decision for the Welsh language. Once again, I will welcome any comments or questions that you may have on any parts of this report. And having said that, you'll see that the recommendation is to approve the report and authorise it to be published on the website. Right, thank you, Bethan. Edgar? Yes, going back now to November, as you mentioned, we changed Snowdon to Arwyddfa, and then we had the English name in some places. I would propose that we do away with that, and as from the 1st of March on, make sure that it's the Welsh name only appearing. Well, we have as an authority agreed, but We can't for 2 years. So there's another year. Thank you very much. Thank you. I was just going to, well, yes, of course, I agree with Edgar, because Parc Cenedlaethol Eryri National Park, it sounds odd to me, and I think it should be just called Parc Cenedlaethol Eryri and leave it at that. Elfed? No, I'd just like to thank Bethan for her work with this. She's put in a lot of work into this report. Thank you, Bethan. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. Thank you, Elfed. I'm sure we all endorse what Elfed is saying. Anyone else with any comments or questions? Oh, Dalith, I'm sorry. I think she's agreeing. Yes. Right. Edgar has proposed the recommendation. Does anyone second it? Dalith has seconded that. Elfed? Sorry, I'm having a technical issue. Okay, it's gone now. So Elfed has seconded this and the recommendation. Can you please show in the same way? Yes, that's been carried again. Thank you very much. Thank you. So item 16, it's the Eryri National Park Partnership Plan for 21-22. Is this you, Angela? Yes. Good morning and welcome to us this morning. Oh yes, and congratulations to you, Chair and Vice Chair. And thank you very much for chairing the forum for the past year with us produce this annual report. And as you know, the statutory plan was adopted in November 2020, and we've been working on the basis of that since then. The first annual report is on our website, and hopefully you'll remember that there are so many excellent things happening across the area and between the partners. We created a micro website as well, or a microsite to talk about the wonderful work and to have a more interactive method across the area. And if you adopt this report today, I'll go about adding the projects from last year to that microsite as well. So I do apologise that this report is quite hefty, but it is really important to cover the important work that all the partners are doing and that the Forum Eryri is achieving. So as you can see, there is an executive summary at the beginning of the report, and it also explains the traffic light system that we use to measure success. And this goes according to the measures we all agreed as an authority and as partners in 2020. And I am really pleased to be able to say that none of the actions have been assessed in red. So progress has taken place on each and every long-term outcome and all the actions within the scheme. Of course, this report does reflect work in 2022, so that's last year. There's nothing for this year as yet. That will come for the next year. Well, despite that, of course, the wording and some of the actions, they are dated now, and some things do need to be reviewed by now. And I do hope that I've covered those now in section 3 of the overview that I've provided. So we've agreed in the last Forum Eryri meeting last month that the new wording is fit for purpose in moving forward with this scheme. So I won't go through it in detail, but obviously I do welcome any questions and any comments that you may have. And I've asked you obviously to note the progress and if you have any recommendations on the way in which this report is presented for the future. But one final point is just to thank all the partners that have contributed and are still turning up regularly. We do have an excellent team on Forum Eryri and more members all of the time who want to attend that forum and be part of this important work. Thank you very much. Thank you, Angela. May I endorse, well, I have already done, how much I enjoy this forum and the great collaboration between partners and the park, of course. I'm looking forward to continue to be on this forum. Thank you very much, Angela. So does anyone have any questions? Louise?
Yes, I do. And it's about the dreaded invasive plant life that we're battling with, particularly Japanese knotweed. A member of the public asked me, how do they report? It's just little pockets, and obviously small areas of Japanese knotweed grow. And before you know it, it's all down the side of a road or by the side of a river, which is worrying. So there's two questions there. How does a member of the public report an outbreak of Japanese knotweed? And does it differ with being on a watercourse on the side of a river or a stream?
Yeah, I really wish I could answer those questions, Louise, but I'm not an expert in biodiversity, unfortunately. I will send on to you how a member of the public can report invasive species into the National Park. I can send that on to you via email. I'm afraid I can't answer your question about water or not. I'm not sure if there's anybody here that can answer that for you, but I can obviously contact our conservation department and get that answer back to you as well.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
I think, Angela, it would be a good thing if you could send a link to every member. I'm sure all members know Japanese knotweed and Himalayan balm or balsam, right? Yes. So if you could send the link round to everyone, I'm sure it would be useful. Anyone else, Tim? Yes, just one small thing. On page 62, we are referring to Cynefin and the work they've done on two different things with a carbon system and also the skills strategy. And I can see that we've got other housing associations working in Eryri. Are we working with them at all? Or is it just with Group Cynefin? I think that's just with Cynefin, yes. There's a meeting of the carbon group. You have different levels of carbon, but stock one is under control, our control, and I've written to both local PSBs to map out how we can address the different elements. And we're meeting with Conwy as soon as well. So I think we need more regional collaboration on this. Well, the reason I brought this up is that I chair one of Group Cynefin subgroups, and you have got ADRA as well, who've got quite a lot of housing in this area, and maybe to include them and the good work Group Cynefin done would be a good thing. Yes, there's an older stock of homes as well, isn't there? Just to add, it's an exceptionally good report. I'm finding it very easy to follow, and there's a lot of information. Delith? Thank you. Just to endorse the point Tim said now, I think this is the right place to do it, but with the collaboration with the housing sector, ADRA, well, as one who used to work for ADRA, they do lead on the carbon-free centre in Penrose, which is very innovative, and Group Cynefin is part of the partnership there. And it would be good to draw in the housing sector to develop their skills with decarbonisation of homes and building, of course, which are carbon friendly. That's just a separate point, but I'd be happy to discuss with Angela about that again. But the report is very comprehensive, and having worked with different sectors and partnerships and stakeholders, not easy at best, but the year's been challenging for everybody. So to see this report in this form is great. We have a snapshot and detail, which is great for me personally to see this progress and where the challenges lie. Thank you. Thank you, Delith. Anyone else with any questions or comments? So the recommendation is that members note the progress to date and provide further recommendations for the 22-23. Edgar has proposed the recommendation. So could you show in the usual way, please? That's been carried. Yes. Right, we'll move on now to item number 17, our Ysgol Annual Report 22-23. And it's my pleasure now to welcome Naomi to us. So this is the annual report 22-23. Interpreter unable to hear the speaker clearly. At the beginning of last year, we could still see the impact of the COVID restrictions, and that did affect the first quarter of the year, when we usually have the highest number of groups of visitors in chapel associations, Merched y Wawr and so on. And it's been widely really circulated that the pandemic lasted longer for that cohort of people really than other cohorts such as schools. That lack of income did, clustered with other problems we had, such as an increase in the heating costs at the beginning of the last financial year, that, and for a combination of reasons to do with fixing the biomass boiler and upgrading the biomass boiler to clean it. And also we had the SLSP grant to install a backup heating system, which is a LGP, and a huge increase in gas costs and biomass costs as well. Some increase in those did pose a challenge for us in heating costs. And those two things have come together, and in the long run means that there is a gap of 50,000 in the budget for 22-23. So the good news, following the bad news, is that it doesn't affect the baseline authority, because in previous years, when the school has been prosperous and has produced a surplus of income, a backup fund has been created, and that reserve is there to fall back on. So if this does happen year on year, of course, that contingency fund won't last long. So we do need to keep an eye on the position, but we don't foresee at the moment that the situation with heating will repeat itself this year at least. And the situation has become more stable since then. And we're not having the same problems as we had previously in terms of running the systems. Then I told you that the group visits had fallen, but having said that, the school visits increased, which is excellent news. But of course, the school pupils don't pay, half what an individual within the group will will pay. It's great engagement-wise, but it doesn't bring in the same income. We've had quite a bit of support through grants from various funds, mainly from the Welsh Federation of Museums and Galleries and the Welsh Government. Well, the Summer of Fun programme has now ended, unfortunately, but we had about £13,000 of grants last year for various projects and programmes of activities. So that has enabled us to make a real difference in terms of well-being and the type of standard programme we can offer. Nature, forest school, and heritage activities. We had grants last year as well for work that will come to fruition during this financial year from Art Fund and another, and we've had £10,000 from the National Lottery Heritage Fund and a further support from Magnox for the Community Heritage Project, which will note the centenary of Heddwyn's Memorial in Trawsfynydd and why it is relevant to us today, and focus on working with the young communities in the area. You may remember seeing correspondence in the press last year about the damage caused to a Heddwyn Memorial, and we want to really go after that and create better communications in the community. So 23 to 24, now we've reopened since the 1st of April, which we were open 6 days of the Easter holidays, and then 5 days a week. What we saw was a very busy summer last summer, and May was quieter. Well, partially because of good weather, but of course it is exam period in school as well. So that pattern has repeated itself again this year. We had a wet April, wetter since 2018, but a quieter May. And staff are now back, other than one who's now left, and we've just appointed a new seasonal member of staff to begin this week. So June and July are looking very promising with groups, and of course July is packed until the summer holidays, which is essential, because if we don't succeed at that time of year, yes, but never mind, it is looking very promising. There are groups of learners, Merched y Wawr, and clubs visiting, which is highly encouraging. And next year, as you are aware, the Lost Words exhibition will be opening in the Ysgwrn. It's a very important exhibition, which is looking at nature and climate emergency, and also looking at young people's engagement with nature and their knowledge of flowers and so forth. And we've just heard that the grant to the Federation has just been a success, our bid. So that will fund activities in July and December this year. And hand in hand in that, we've had a grant from Arts Fund to fund a new educational package to comply with the new curriculum. And that has been developed by Conwy Council, and we're working on that. And it will be launched in Ysbyty Ifan Llanddoged and yr Ysgwrn next week. I'm going back then to marketing that jointly with the Welsh Books Council before the summer, and on the National Eisteddfod field when teachers are preparing for the next academic year. And then we'll be targeting our transport grant for schools who wish to engage with the exhibition Lost Words. So hopefully that will be very successful for us. We'll have a stand on the National Eisteddfod and a package to go with Lost Words. And we've seen over the last year the importance of maintaining a buzz really around it and find something new to share with people. And of course, to continue in a way to develop these audiences and make sure that families come back time after time again to participate in activities, and that the schools do. Of course, it's more difficult to do that with groups of adults. But I think one issue for us is marketing for visitors in the area. So there are signage around, and there is a presence on social media, which is quite strong, I would say. But financially, you know, investing in that is costly. But I would hope that there will be an opportunity to work with the PLAS for a new period, and we can maybe look into new opportunities. And there we are. I'm happy to take any questions you may have, but thank you for your support. Thank you, Naomi. So before I move to the recommendations, does anyone have any questions or comments? Just one comment. There is a high level of interest around the Ysgwrn because of the situation, of course, of supporting the site financially. And after the period after the centenary and increasing costs, I will be working with John and Naomi to support the Ysgwrn. So that is something I can do for me. Could I just add one point? I had meant to say this. 2022-23 was the first year for the Ysgwrn to run without an additional grant. So it is a heritage grant, or during the pandemic, we had grants for staffing costs, furlough was in place, and costs for the running of the site with heating and so forth. So last year was the first year for us really to test the water, as it were, to see how things fell. But we did have additional problems that certainly didn't help. Just like to thank Naomi for the report that's been presented so well. It's a very good report. Great, thank you. And I can understand the issues that were mentioned. Thank you very much. Thank you. Elfed? Yes, just to thank Naomi for her work. And I'm just keeping my hat on with the Trawsfynydd Community Council and the Heddwyn Memorial. Naomi kept in touch with the council, and as I say, just to have just the keep coming in, you know, that's, I know name is working very hard, but just to get ordinary people. But thank you very much for all you're doing for the Ysgwrn. Anybody else with any questions? Stilwyn? Yes, thank you. Naomi? It's not easy. Is there more? Sorry, interpreter unable to hear the question. Yes. Yes, there is room for our Ysgwrn to work with a new curriculum in schools, which is a good thing. But is there anything we can do within the counties? What more can our Ysgwrn offer schools? And I think in particular in an area within the national park where you have agriculture, and when that all comes into it, it's a very important consideration and is going to become more and more important. Yes, agree entirely. By September, there will be new educational packages, but there is one which is for the memorial centenary, and there's one about the agricultural heritage. And we definitely see an opportunity in the new curriculum to give the experiences to children and young people through education. And since setting up the ysgwrn, we have the 5 themes, and they encompass aspects of the new curriculum. So it's in the pipeline, and we had presence as well in the conference, Welsh Language Conference in Llandrindod in October. That was for the promotion of the Lost Words package, but we will have a stall there as well to share information about our educational work and so forth in order to target schools. And there is, well, there's a division really in the school audience as well. We have a number of schools coming within an hour's journey. And for the first time last year, we had schools like Berwyn visiting. So starting with the national park, they hadn't visited. So that's a new thing. It's good to see that new connection, Ysgol Ardudwy organising for the first time this year, for example. And then we have schools from further afield where the Welsh language is very often their children's second language, if the education isn't Welsh, and then they come in order to hear the language. They speak hear the language being spoken naturally. So there's always more we can do, but it is in the pipeline. Anyone else with questions or comments?
Okay, we'll move to the recommendation to accept the report. And any further comments or observations? Can we have a show of hands that you accept the report in the usual way? Item 18. Working group report held on the 19th of April. Thank you, Naomi. This is for information, more or less. Over to Edgar, who chaired this working group. Page 171. Do you have any questions relating to this working group report? It is for information. These have, of course, already been accepted, but there haven't been any working groups since then. These are also for information. Meetings of other organizations. Do we have any oral or written reports from members on any meetings that they have attended recently representing the authority? Anyone? Perhaps not. Okay. To submit the following minutes for information as well. The first is the minutes of the National Parks Wales Executive Meeting that were held on the 4th of October last year. I don't think anybody will have a question in relation to that. Emma, do you have any comments to make in relation to that? It's so far back, to be honest. Difficult to remember. Then the Performance and Resources Committee held on the 22nd of March. Elva, do you chair this meeting? Do you have anything that you'd like to say? Nothing to add, really, Anwen. Thank you. Standards Committee held on the 28th of April. Ewan, did you want to add anything? This is also for information. Yes, it is for information. A lot of information has already been reported in the report on the agenda. Okay, 21, the section 151 officer. I'm sure that you'll all agree that this report is exempt for the following item because it includes information relating to paragraph 1 as stated there. We need Rob to come back in. Can we put the exclusion of the press and public, that we keep them out from this item, if you would please? If you could just have a show of hands, thank you. Everybody in agreement, thank you. Can we just have Rob back in the room? Please remember that the recording is continuing for now.